Okay, sounds good.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to today's Indiana Standardbred Breed Development and Standardbred Advisory Board meetings. It is just a little after 3 o'clock. We appreciate everybody's patience as they have logged on and tuned in. As you see to the right, there is a live event Q&A. You are welcome to ask your questions on there, and as long as they are pertinent to what we are discussing.
Joey,
if you cannot,
if
you have issues getting the Q&A, make sure that you can also email them to Jessica Barnes at jbarnes@hrc.in.gov, or you can text them to 317-680-2514.
Got it.
Joining us for this meeting. And presenters, I remind you to make sure that your computer is muted. If you're watching on video, make sure that your your mic is muted if you have background noise. But joining us on this call is Jessica Barnes, Director of Breed Development and Racing. We have Scott Snyder, Scott Piney, Rick Moore, Tim Graber, Byron Hooley, Joe Putnam, Pam Cross, Dwayne Rhule, and Faron Parr. So if you guys want to access, there was a link on the Facebook. There is a link if you go to the Indiana Horse Racing Commission website. If you look in meetings, there is a packet of information that we will be showing here on the screen as well. And with that, I will take it to Jessica Barnes.
Okay, before we turn it over to Chairman of Breed Development, Scott Snyder, I just wanted to take a minute and say just, thank you. I appreciate everybody's patience. As we look at these programs, we have to consider that the casinos have been shut down. That's a great deal of money coming from our programs to our casinos. So when we look and work at these budgets, we've done the best that we can with what money that we have. So, the casinos being shut down for as long as they have has a huge impact on our programs and on our budgets. So I'll just turn it over to Scott now as we get started and start working our way through the agenda.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We are certainly in unusual times, and we're going to do our best to navigate with the information that we have before us currently, and we'll continue to make adjustments going forward as needed. But all we can do at the moment is go forward as we currently see things and hope for the best. And I think we're all optimistic, and everybody's chomping at the bit to get back to as normal as possible, whatever that might be. Yes. So I guess we'll start first. We don't need to go through any, minutes or anything of that nature, right, Jessica?
No, with this being a virtual meeting and, everybody from being at home, I just went ahead and left off the minutes this time, and we'll bring those back at the next meeting. So
okay, I just wanted to double check on that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We'll get into the projected revenue first. And Jessica, you can go over that. But as mentioned already, that it's not just the racing that we're missing, but it's also revenue shortfalls from the casinos being shut down. And Jessica's done a lot of work to try and figure that out and what it's going to look like going forward. So Jessica, if you want to just take over and go from there.
Okay. I think Megan's going to the next page, which is our 2020 budget projections for the Standardbred Breed Development Program. Our projected revenue for the year has been adjusted. It is right around $6.6 million. When we set up the program at the beginning of the year, we thought we were going to have 13.8 million. So that gives you an idea of where we're at now compared to the program that we originally put forth. The breakages and outs, we've made an adjustment to that. Outs comes in one time a year. Thankfully, they've already come in. And then I've adjusted the breakages to account for the downtime. Utilized from reserves. Over the years, we've been conservative, and we've always tried to keep some reserves, and we actually built up some pretty good reserves. We've been trying to spend those down and do that in a responsible way. You know, I'm thankful as I look at this budget that we have some reserves to be able to throw in. So we're actually throwing in $2.2 million from reserves. Admin and promo, that is something, the majority, we've actually reduced the promotions down. And then there's administrative expenses that have not went away. So employee salaries that are work for the breed development program get funded out of that. So that leaves us with a projected amount available for the racing program is of $8,834,954. If we spend all of that and our revenue projections are correct, then that will leave us with a balance at the end of the year of about $3 million. So the commission would like to see the Standardbred Breed Development Committee keep a balance of at least $2 million. So that still gives us a little bit for next year's program, because the anticipation is that it's going to take longer than the next 4 or 5 months to recover from this, and that we'll probably see declines in revenue go into the year 2021. Any questions on that page? Okay, if we don't have any, then we'll go to the next one, which is kind of, it goes right into that. So this is our 2020 budget and expenditure page. So this shows you each of our program budgets. And if you go over to the third column with the numbers, that shows you what was originally proposed for the Standardbred Breed Development Program for 2020. When you look at the percentage change in revenue, we've actually had a 33.68% change. So decline in our revenue. So what I did was just apply the 33.68 reduction. Sorry, that is my fault. The 33.68 reduction to every line item in the budget. And then the final column is just, I like dealing in round numbers. So then I rounded them to make them look a little prettier. So, you know, you'll see that the sire stake goes from 7.9 million down to 5,250,000. Our late closer program goes from 850,000 down to 565,000. Our overnight supplement and mini series goes from 2.3 million down to 1,525,000. Breeders Awards from 700,000 down to 465,000. Fair Circuit from 1,450,000 to 965,000. And then our other races at the fairs, which is the Maple City Trot and the Classic and the Elite, from 86,000 down to 60,000. So we really thought, you know, in talking with Breed Development Committee members that, you know, the fairest thing for the program was to every part of the program share in the pain. And that's why that reduction was just applied straight down the column. Any questions from board members?
I don't have any.
I think Rick is muted. Can't unmute him.
Rick,
No
you
question.
are muted if you are trying to speak.
I don't know if he is or not.
Jessica, this is Scott Snyder.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that gives people a good overview of what we're dealing with in terms of changes to the overall program as concerns our revenues and what it means to to the overall program. I think the big one is the good fortune that we have with our reserves. It's almost like we've been saving for a rainy day, which in some sense we have. Obviously, this wasn't the rainy day we expected.
Okay. So if you break this down to our individual programs, then we get to basically, I started with the sire stakes and I put 3 scenarios together. So, in these scenarios, none of these are set in stone. This is just a starting point. I've got the spreadsheet here on my computer. We can change it if we need to, but you'll see the first one is the current structure. And so I took the money that we have available now and I plugged that into the current structure as we have it set up and what those would look like. So there was no reduction to the finals or the consolation. There was no reduction to the legs, meaning we would have to make up legs that we have lost so far. And if that was the case, you would have a $250,000 final, $25,000 consolation, 2-year-old legs. If you had one division, they would be anywhere from 66,000 to 71,000, and then be divided accordingly. So if you had 5 divisions of 2-year-olds, you would be down to 13,000. That number is before you add on the entry fee from each horse. So if you had 8 horses in the race, obviously you're adding $4,000 onto that purse. So this does not take into account the entry fees that are added onto each race. 3-year-olds, if you had your 8 legs, one division, you would be anywhere from 400,000 to 51,000. And then, 3 divisions, you would be at 17,000 to 16,000, just depending on what category it was, all the way down to, $9,000 for 5 divisions. I don't believe we had anywhere near 5 divisions for the 3-year-olds last year. So, I mean, most of the time we were in the 1, 2, or 3 range with 3-year-olds. The next sheet, next structure we went through was the 1 leg reduction. So this would be if you reduce the 2-year-olds by 1 leg, reduce the 3-year-olds by 1 leg, is where you would be. And that was keeping the finals the same and the consolations the same. You would be at between 79,000 to 80,000 for the 2-year-olds and 50,000 to 53,000 a division for the 3-year-olds. And that is prior to them splitting into additional divisions. So then The third sheet is the 2-leg reduction. So I actually cut off 2 legs of each sire stakes. So 2-year-olds would have 4 legs, and 3-year-olds would have 6 legs, and left the finals the same and the consolation. And that put the 1 division of 2-year-olds at 99,000 to 100,000. If we did split into 3 divisions or 4 divisions, you were down to 24,000, 19,000 on 5 divisions, 6 legs for the 3-year-olds, and that took you to anywhere from 64,000 to 67,000 for 3-year-olds for our sire stakes. And then of course it divides out as you look at that.
Mhm.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, Jessica, Scott Snyder.
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Yeah, so we've kicked this around just a little bit and looking at the data with Joe and Rick, as we try to assess. And there's another option that we kicked around to add,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be leaving the 2-year-olds at 6 legs and then reduce the 3-year-olds to 7 legs. And the general thinking on that would be, one, once we get started, whatever is gone is gone, and trying to make that up becomes challenging in terms of shuffling things around. The other part is also wanting to give everybody as many opportunities as possible. Now, with that scenario of reducing the 3-year-olds from 8 to 7 legs and keeping the 2-year-olds at 6, one thing that would probably need to be done just based upon logistics and trying to get the meet open would have to shuffle the dates just slightly at the beginning of the meet. So that would mean moving the second leg is scheduled for the 17th of June. Mm-hmm. That basically becomes the first leg. And so you would basically move that to the first leg to when the third leg is supposed to start. So the first leg of the 3-year-olds would then start on July 1st, which is already scheduled date. And then you would move the second leg would then be on the 14th, 2 weeks later. And then after that, I believe you could be back to normal in terms of the scheduling for the 3-year-old sire stakes. With the 2-year-olds, you would be looking to move the first leg, which is scheduled for the 7th of July, to the 21st of July. And then you would be back on normal schedule for the 2-year-old. So that's another option to put in the mix to consider. I think we're all in the stage of kicking ideas around. We're not locked into anything at this moment, but that's just another potential option to consider. So, turn it back over to you.
Scott,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think whatever, before you end up deciding whatever happens with the legs, I think
I had that exactly. Whatever ends up happening, like with the 3-year-old legs, I definitely agree with the first leg being that week of July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and then that can be the 3-year-old schedule can be worked out fairly easy with too many without any roadblocks. I mean, in terms of getting things kind of worked out, I had the exact same thing kind of tentatively penciled in, no matter what happens with the legs.
Excellent. Well, it's good to hear, Scott. And obviously, you know, you're a big part of this equation in terms of, you know, this new schedule.
Because everything's changed. So like if we were back in March, it's just so different. I think if we get a couple of weeks into the meet, the horse people are going to have their horses ready. And people have had 2-3 months with no income, and they're going to want to. Like waiting 2 months for the first sire stake leg isn't going to work, and it's like this like 2-3 weeks into the meet is going to be just perfect in terms of just like starting getting people back on track financially because they've had no income for 3 months. You know?
Absolutely, I agree with that. So yeah, kick that around, Scott, and see if those dates.
I agree. Whatever.
Yeah,
yeah, that's good.
So like I said, the general plan is not to decide anything today, but kick around some ideas, see how they look on paper, and then try and make a decision from there.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I'm still showing Rick as muted. Rick, can you try to say something? I just want to make sure we're not missing you if you're trying to say anything.
I'm not Rick, but this is Faron Parr, and
Uh-huh.
I would think given the late start, I don't think anybody would be too upset if we dropped one of the sire stake legs for the 2 and the 3-year-old. If we only dropped 1 leg for each of them, I think everybody would still be pretty happy with how it turned out. And
So far from the general public, they like Scott Snyder's idea of keeping the 2-year-olds but reduce the 3-year-olds by 1 as one support. If you don't see on your Q&A.
Faron.
Yes.
Yeah, that's certainly an option and has merit to consider. I think some of it too is just the fact that we had 8 legs to start with at the 3-year-olds. And 6 for the 2-year-olds.
Right.
And I don't know that, at least from my perspective, that we have to keep everything apples to apples. That if we cut one from one group, we have to cut from the other. But that's just my general thoughts. Now, you can certainly argue something different, which is fine, and I'm open to that, but I would like to keep things as much the same as possible going forward, and again just continue to give people as many opportunities as possible to race their Indiana sired horses.
Jessica, this is Rick. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Thank you, Rick. I was just really worried about not being able to hear you.
No,
so
I was trying to talk several times, and I thought, what? I can't get a word in edgewise. So I know. Phones. I don't know what happened. So I just switched phones, but I was commenting, and no one was listening but my dog. That I'm not opposed to what Scott put forward, and I'm not locked into anything. But I do think I need to at least enunciate what I put in the email. I think it was yesterday. And I've applied the same, I've been trying in my mind to apply the same theory, rationale, whatever you want to call it, of fairness that you started with when you laid out the money. And that is that everyone shares in the pain. And my thoughts were, if one class loses a leg, why doesn't every class lose a leg? Because I can see people saying, hey, you cut me a leg, you didn't cut them a leg. I'm just trying to be as fair and equitable as possible in my thinking. So that's where I was coming from. Again, not locked into it, but I thought I needed to at least explain where I was coming from in my thought process.
It's fair, and I agree with Rick. I think that would be, we catch less headaches and complaints and it seemed more fair, I think, if you cut one leg from both. I didn't like cutting two legs from both, but I would think getting a late start, that I don't think everybody would have too much to complain about to cut just one leg on each.
This is Pam Cross, and I think the same way. Just one leg both, and I like the dates, the start dates. I think those are good start dates also.
This is Dwayne, Rhule. I like the one leg loss on everybody, and I feel like the program really looks good as far as everybody's concerned, with everybody bearing part of the load.
This is Scott Snyder. One thing to keep in mind, guys, no matter what we do, whether we choose one leg, no legs, or two legs, we're racing for the same amount of money. So it's just a matter of how the money is dividing up and the number of opportunities that everybody gets. So, nobody's getting shortchanged any money, no matter what we decide. I think that's an important thing to remember. So it's not like, one side is 2-year-olds versus 3-year-olds is making more of a sacrifice than the other based on whatever decision that we come to. The money's going to be the same regardless. It's just going to be the number of legs that ultimately end up being raised.
Yeah. Also, we've got a couple comments that have come in on the live Q&A. Just some thoughts from people that are listening, if Megan wants to read them.
Okay. I already mentioned the one that's keep 2-year-olds but reduce 3-year-olds by 1. Another anonymous said, I do not like the idea of reducing the 2-year-olds because 3-year-olds have more racing opportunity. We have to get money back for the owners. And kind of going along with that one, someone asked, if legs are cut for 2-year-olds, can Mr. Moore guarantee 2-year-old only races?
So are they referring to 2-year overnights for 2-year-olds?
I would assume so, but if anonymous who asked, if you guys can help us out with that and let me know, are you talking about overnights or are you talking about something else?
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, Joe Putnam here.
Hi, Joe.
This is kind of a question for Scott along with everyone, but we will still have, along with the sire stakes, we will have the ISS eligible races in conjunction with those like we've had the past few years also.
Yes.
So, maybe that will alleviate some concerns from some of the horse people. Those races will still be available as, an alternative to the sire stakes. So
yes,
just food for thought for everyone. So
yeah, those absolutely. That never, yes, absolutely keep those kind of, like I said, schedules kind of right on top of the leg. There's kind of, it's kind of like it's almost like a stallion series. It's similar to it, but yeah, there are absolutely no intentions of, every intention of keeping those.
Right. Plus we'll still have 2-year-old Indiana sired races like we have in the past. So the point of this is there'll still be, multiple racing opportunities for people with 2-year-olds, whether we go with 6 legs or 5 legs or whatever's decided. So there'll still be, many other opportunities.
I do have clarification as far as someone asking about guaranteeing 2-year-old only races, and they said yes, overnights is what they would prefer if you did 2-year-olds.
Yeah, no one has more overnight 2-year-old races than we do. Yeah, there's still be tons of 2-year-old overnights. There always is. And ISS eligible races.
Okay. And then we had another question that said, if the 2-year-olds go for a total of, say, 800,000 over the course of the season, what does it matter if you divide 800,000 by 5, 6, 7, or 8 legs? The total money race for doesn't change. Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Yes, that is correct. When you look at those spreadsheets, basically you have the allocation at the top that says amount for 2-year-old legs and amount for 3-year-old legs. Those amounts are equal. It's just how you divide up that pie. So, and the differences you get in the individual purses is because nominations for each category. So 2-year-old filly pacers, it follows 2-year-old filly pacers. So then that nomination money is divided out.
And I guess I sound like I'm lobbying for my position, and maybe I am. But when we're adjusting the program that we had originally laid out, and you start adjusting number of legs, and you differ on how you're adjusting the different classes, and none on this class, 1 on this class. I just think it tends to leave us open for maybe some criticism. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think if we adjust one class, we need to adjust all. Just my thinking, and like I said, not locked into it, but that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Scott, do you want me to move on to the next category?
Yes, Jessica, go ahead and move on down.
Okay.
There was one last question regarding this. I'm sorry, guys. And it is, not all of these races fill with full fields, so they do not go. Will these go with reduced fields?
Huh?
And then another question was, why can't we reduce the finals?
I don't know of any case last year where we had, maybe on the 3-year-olds that it got down to smaller fields. Scott, do you remember?
It wasn't a lot. It was a handful. It wasn't like it was a handful. It wasn't like a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think
maybe toward the end it wasn't like I don't understand that question.
Yeah, I think I think that especially when you're looking at 2-year-old races, most of those categories, I think we had multiple divisions all the way to the end. So,
Jessica, this is Scott Snyder.
Yes.
I would take some of those questions as opposed to the 2-year-olds, for instance, if we were to get rid of a leg, it sounds like to me that they just want to make sure that there are going to be other opportunities that are guaranteed to get their 2-year-olds raised, and that their concern would be if we take away one of the 2-year-old legs, that falls within the opening period, that they just have other possibilities to race, which there's no doubt that they will. It's just a question of to what degree, and then you get into the whole difficult of that Scott's in terms of trying to write races, and the number of horses trying to get raced. That would be my take.
And I mean, like what Scott and everybody kind of alluded to, I think this is meeting 1 of 2. So if you still have comments after this as we go on to each different category, you can email those to myself and I will get those out to the committee members. So as we go along. So if we move on to lake closers, with the reduced amount available, I included in your packet kind of a thought I got from Scott Piney. So I'll kind of let Scott explain the thoughts with this and the reduced money for the lake closers. If you want to take it over, Scott.
Yeah. I've changed it so many. I mean, not changed. I've looked at it and tried to. And I've gotten a few phone calls on especially the late closers we've already taken the nominations for, and also questions and concerns about making the nomination payment for the Haldale and the Expression and the Go On BB, those that non-winners to that second group where people, that nomination payment's actually coming up tomorrow, and again with all the questions and all the uncertainty that's happened, this is kind of what I came up with, is that going under the assumption the first leg of the Sire Stakes, which I think probably is the best thing to do, is July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. The opening week that we race, the 16th through the 20th, at Parr, the late closers, Jerry Landis, the Maya Tri, the Cardinal, and the Miss Windfall, those 4 of them, card those, but just the kind of the time constraints and the scheduling constraints, have them race with the same purse for 1 leg in a final. Then, with the uncertainty, again, with the non-winners of 2 wins, the Haldale, et cetera, those, and not a lot of people are going to be raced, people maybe not nominate to them, and kind of also the uncertainty of people not having any income for the last few months, is absolutely literally scrapping those. However, that same week, again, it's a perfect lead into the Sire Stakes, right? A mini-series, some sort of mini-series with a good purse on it, written word for word, the conditions of those late closers that were eliminated. And again, that's a good lead into the Sire Stakes. Again, the conditions will be written word for word. So there's no nomination payment. There's no people have to worry about nominating to the uncertainty. And they still get to race before this. They get 2 good races in before the Sire Stakes without having to nominate to anything, or again, having to, the stress of the payment due tomorrow and not knowing what to do. And that's my best contribution for the ones leading into the Sire Stakes, because in my own opinion, that those races are very good prep races and or lead into the Sire Stakes, where horses aren't getting thrown into the deep water right away. And they're perfect lead in. They can race for a good purse right off the bat the first 2 weeks of the meet to kind of get people maybe moving in the right direction before the Sire Stakes. That's my thoughts on those. And then also probably in the remaining ones, probably scrapping those. But then again, we have plenty of flexibility in writing overnights to replace them. We have plenty of, with the breed development overnight money, writing overnights to replace them. I think that's, I think keeping the Jerry Landis, the Cardinal, the Maya, trying to miss Windfall, keep them as is. There's a lot of nominations to them, and just race them 1 leg in a final, so they can, if they so choose to go to the Sire Stakes after that, then they can. That's my thoughts on that.
committee members?
Joe Putnam
Scott
here.
Snyder. Sorry, Joe. Go ahead,
Oh,
Joe.
it's okay. I just was going to agree. I know we've talked, and we have the ability to write a mini series / overnight to really emulate these as they would have been anyway, and that's going to be the most probable thing that we end up doing as the season goes on. So, just trying to alleviate some of the fears that horsemen or horse people may have, that we're just not going to have any races for them. We're going to do our best to write things the same but different. So just my 2 cents.
This is Scott Snyder. Yeah, I agree with that, Joe. Am flexible here and certainly, would have a considerable amount of deference to Scott in terms of how he was going to fit all this in and where it worked best. With all considerations given to the horsemen and how it's best for them too, and making sure that we have a good balance of being able to fit in races and have opportunities for horsemen to continue to take advantage of the late closers or similar type races, particularly overnights that use the same conditions.
This is Rick. I think what Scott Piney laid out makes a heck of a lot of sense, and I agree with the subsequent comments from both Joe and Scott Snyder.
Dwayne, Rhule, I concur with what's just been said. Faron, Parr, I'd have to agree.
Is Pam still on here? We might have lost Pam. Tim Graber, any thoughts?
I think you have mute. Yeah, Tim Graber, I agree.
Okay. And Byron, you've been quiet.
This is Dwayne Rhule. Byron said he wasn't going to participate today.
Oh, he was on here early.
He called in.
Did he call in?
Yeah, he was on here.
Well,
he might be having the same problem I had earlier.
He might have been.
His phone is not muted. Byron is still on here. He is awake. Just a couple of comments. We have somebody saying these are good ideas from Scott Piney. Someone asked, might you want to see how many entries you get for the series you propose to cancel before canceling it? For people who don't have sire stakes caliber horses, these series gave them a chance to make some money. Now, if they become preps for the sire stakes, the next level down horses will be overmatched.
Well, they've always been scheduled before the sire stakes. They've always come in and but then again, when we get to the sire stakes, there's going to be the ISS eligible races for those particular group of horses. But there's so with all of them spread out that first week, you're getting like a diverse group in terms of money getting spread around, because they're not in past. You've got one horse he'll rip through the Jerry Landis, and then he'll rip through the Jerry Landis, and he'll rip through he'll go through the Halbell. Or now it's kind of this spreads a little bit of it around, where you're going to get kind of more horses getting kind of access to the money, in case you could because maybe I use Always a Prince or Little Rocket Man as an example, where they were standouts in the Jerry Landis and they were standouts in the next leg down. Now everything kind of gets spread around a little bit because of the scheduling constraints.
Okay. Okay, I think if we're ready, we'll go ahead and start talking about the next item. If you guys want me to move forward. I do not have sheets for the overnight money. It's pretty straightforward that we put into the mini series and the overnight races. You know, that amount is reduced. And so is the Breeders' Awards. I just reduced it proportionally. So there's really nothing to factor there because those programs typically, you know, they're just the supplement we give to the tracks for overnights and mini series. When they run out of that, they run out of it. And then the Breeders' Awards is a amount too. So it's just a lump sum that we use at the end of the year to allocate those Breeders' Awards. So the next item is the county fairs. So this sheet, I'll tell you the approach that I took to the county fairs. It tells us I took the new amount that is available. I brought the finals back down to last year's amount because we had proposed an increase this year. And I had so this is $20,000 finals for the fair circuit. It is an $8,000 consolation. And the 6th through 8th place in the fair final receiving $500, which we've done the last couple of years for the fair finals. So you take that amounts to $236,000. So I took that off of the money that was available. This also eliminated the $1,000 races we have at the fairs, and it also does not account for a second series final. So that is not in this. So I took the money that was left, which was $729,000, and I looked at our fair program last year, and I went through and did an average, because in some places we have some fairs that are kind of close to each other. We have fairs that don't get as much horses participating as others. And so what I did is actually did an average for all of our county fairs to kind of get an average of what it costs breed development per fair program. And I found that the average cost to breed development for fair program is about $65,000. So I took that and divided it by the money we had left after you allocate money to finals, to our fair circuit finals. I kind of put the whole schedule down below. I drew a line over after the ones that occurred in the month of June. I took the liberty to move Clinton County to 7-4 and 7-5. I haven't had that discussion with them yet, so I don't know if that's a possibility, but I wanted to get a direction that we were going first before we reached out to the fairs with a plan. So based on these numbers, it gives us an opportunity to have 11 programs with purses at $3,000 a division. So this is not cutting for purses for the regular fair races. If you just number down, that 11th program takes us to the Indiana State Fair. You know, the State Fair finals would be the 12th program. So that would give us some ability to, you know, I've heard some suggestions out there that you could maybe run the elite races at the Indiana State Fair in the place of the fair final. And then, you know, you would have your Converse would be your 11th. And then you move the state fair to the 825, or you work out a date where the fair finals are at the Indiana State Fair after those 11 programs have been ran. So let me know if this makes sense or what anybody thinks of it.
Jessica, Joe Putnam.
Yes.
Yeah, I know we've talked, and I think based upon monies available, something to that effect is going to be the most sensible. The one question I do have, I know you said you haven't really talked any fairs. Would there be any room for some of these fairs that are right on top of each other? I know sometimes it, goes along with their own county fair and stuff, so it's hard to move things. But, for instance, Noble County, Kendallville, and Newton County, Kentland, same day.
Yeah.
Just thoughts, because it's going to be significantly reduced anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Would there be room to maybe spread them out a little bit so whomever chose to participate could possibly participate in all of the fairs available?
Yeah, I think we could have those discussions with them. I do think, when we get a couple of the fairs off of top of each other, then our cost might go up just a little bit. So, you might see the average, it might go up a tick. I don't think it will destroy the budget, if we stick to the 11. So, if we had a conversation with Noble County, because I know that they aren't racing during their fair, if they would possibly move to, if you did put the elite in where the state fair was, and, you moved Noble County to where Shelby County was with the number 13, and then you could have your finals at the state fair on 9-4. So that would give you your...
That would give more of an opportunity for the participants. It might make people feel a little bit better in the big picture. It would be a pretty full fair season if we could rearrange it like that. Sounds like, all of June is gone, and this would eliminate most of September and early October.
Yes. Yeah, and unless anyone wanted to consider reducing purses at the fairs. And, that's one of the things when I talk to committee and board members that, with a $3,000 purse, a fifth place check right now is $150. You've paid a $50 entry fee, so you're walking away with $100. If you reduce it to $2,500, your fifth place check is $125. So then you're walking away with $75. So, if you reduce the purses, you might be able, if you reduce to $2,500, you might be able to get one or two more. It's not going to go super, super far just with the number of divisions that we have. I personally, I would hate to reduce them any lower than 2,500, and I would really like to keep the 3,000 because I just know that it's hard work out there at the fairs for people shipping those horses and gas and being tied to a tree and you walk away with $75. It's tough. So
I agree with that observation, and plus, I think if we could rotate a few fairs, having, I think it's most important to still try to have the finals at the Indiana State Fair. And, with track surface and things of that nature, we don't want to get too deep into the season because it becomes, an issue with rain and so on and so forth. So it kind of makes sense, a schedule like that. It's still a pretty reasonable schedule considering what's went on this year. So that's just my thoughts on that.
And we had a comment come in that somebody said that they're disappointed that the fair final purses are cut, and yet everyone is worried about the Sire Stakes final staying the same. The reason I made that cut was there was an actual increase this year to the fair finals. The Sire Stake finals there was no increase made for 2020. So I was keeping everything at 2019 levels. So the fair finals aren't being cut beyond what they were last year. I just got rid of the increase that we were going to give them from table games. So just to explain my rationale there, that's why I did that. Is so that was an increase that was made for the 2020 program based on anticipation of extra revenue from table games. And so I went back to what 2019 was. The money for the sire stakes for the finals last year for the sire stakes were $250,000.
Jessica, Scott Snyder.
Uh-huh.
Have you had any conversations with anybody associated with the state fair in terms of what that's going to potentially look like this year, or planning that they're doing? And the same would hold true for any of the other fairs in terms of what their planning looks like, and how that might affect racing, and what they're thinking.
I was on a conference call Monday with the Indiana State Fair, and at this point in time, they are planning on moving forward and having the fairs. It was a safety protocol and restrictions that were going to be in place for the fair. So at this time, they're trying to figure out, how to make sure that they're following safety standards and making sure fair goers are safe. So at this point in time, they're not talking about canceling the fair. I think they're trying to get everything lined up so they can have the fair in a safe manner. With that said, I think this whole thing is a moving target. So, as it comes right down to it, I don't know what's going to happen, come August. At this point in time, they were even still asking us about the barn tours and wanted us to still have those. And we were trying to figure out a safe manner to be able to have those and how we could adapt those barn tours during the fair.
Okay, fair enough. That just gives us an idea of at least what their thinking is at the moment, which is good to know.
Hey Scott, Tim Graber here, and as far as the county fair, like Elkhart County, for example, we're the same way. We're doing everything we can to have a fair, and I mean, it's obviously going to be different from the standpoint. I think that you're going to see more hand sanitizing than we've ever had before, that type of thing. But our goal is, after the last order lifts in early July, that we can have people in the stands and have people at the fair and go forward as, with some normalcy.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
And Scott, as for reaching out to the county fairs, I hadn't did that yet because I wanted to kind of see where we were going with the fair program before we kind of made those calls and say, you're scheduled to race July 11th. Are you still wanting, is your fair board still on board? Has your county put in any additional restrictions? So I was kind of waiting to have those conversations so that I could share with them, what we're looking at as far as structure-wise for the program.
Sure, that's understandable. Thank you.
Nat Hill had a question, and it was one that I had a question because I was a little confused as well looking at the timeline. Is the Governor's Cup going to be, with this timeline, Jessica, would the Governor's Cup be held during the state fair, or are we talking about postponing the Governor's Cup?
I think that's probably a discussion that we need to have. If you had the finals during the Indiana State Fair, then that leaves you one set of races after the fair. Or possibly two if you were moving Noble County. So, I don't know. The Governor's Cup kind of makes things a little more complicated. If you do come back and you have the fair final on, say, September 4th, you have it at the second go round of the state fair. you could still have that be the Governor's Cup, albeit you're not going to have as many fans in the stands as you would during the Indiana State Fair. So it's something that we have to consider. I know Mike McDaniel's worked really hard on that Governor's Cup. So I think we have to balance it with, what we make a fair program look like. So I think whatever scenario we have, I would like to see the finals at the state fair. I think the question that we need to ask is how important is it that those finals are held during the Indiana State Fair itself? And then how would you deal with the other two programs that are left afterwards if we're not able to have a full? Because in essence, we're not having a second series. So it's kind of a big question mark in my mind.
Jessica, Joe Putnam. That's a great question. Obviously, if it was important to everyone to have the Governor's Cup finals during the state fair, and assuming Noble County was willing to change dates, I think it would be okay just to have two fairs. I think that's an option. They're just, they'd just be two fairs kind of by themselves. There would obviously not be a lead into a final or anything of that nature. So it would still be an opportunity for participants, though. Just a thought from me.
We have some more scheduling questions, but I'm not sure if we're going to just continue to discuss scheduling of fairs right now, or if you want to table that for another time.
One of the questions here is, can Converse have dates over Kentland and Kendallville? Both are places that do not get a lot of horses and horsemen. My first reaction is, if we start doing those things and taking fairs off of the calendar that are already there, then one, that messes with the average that I have. So we may be getting into a situation where you get rid of Kentland. Now my average goes up to $70,000 or $75,000. So we may be looking at 10 programs instead of 11. And these are all trade-offs that we have. My heart breaks for Converse missing their two programs, but we also have fairs that are on the schedule, and it's difficult to just kind of push them by the wayside because of another fair that just became an unfortunate casualty of this. I don't know what the other board members think about that, but I would say that if we start calling down this line and somebody tells me that their fair is not going to host a race, we don't want to keep our date that we've been given. I think you go to Converse and the fairs that didn't get to have their dates in June, and you offer them a chance to step in before anybody else does. Thoughts from board members?
Joe Putnam. I think that's a great logical thinking there. It'd be a shame that anybody's going to get cut out, but these are times that nobody's foreseen or anticipated. So at the end of the day, we're trying to set the best programs up we can with what we have. So I think everything's on the table, but at the same time, we're going to have to make decisions that probably aren't going to benefit everyone.
Jessica,
Tim Graber.
Go ahead, Tim.
Sorry, Scott. Hey, just looking ahead, like Converse missed both of their dates. Shelby County missed a date, but Shelby County's got 2 dates that are still on the schedule. Would it be a consideration to offer one of those 2 dates up to Converse? I guess Converse has got another one on here too, though. Shelby's got 2 and Converse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And
Clinton.
Snyder.
Yes, Scott.
Yeah, my thought is that we just continue to evaluate the situation. I agree with what both you and Joe have said. We're in unusual times and difficult situation, it's a tough situation for fairs like Converse. But let's we'll certainly keep all those issues in mind, and let's see how it plays out with the fairs that are scheduled and what it looks like for them. But we're dealing with a set amount of funds, and we'll just have to do the best that we can with the amount of money that we have and the dates that we have in front of us, and see how that plays out.
And Parr, I have to agree. I mean, this is hopefully a year we never have to deal with this again, but we'll try to be as fair as we can and go forward. That's about all we can do, and just glad to finally, hopefully, start racing soon.
So, I mean, I think I've had a lot of calls from people wanting to kind of know before they make their payment tomorrow. I think it's safe for people out there to kind of understand that we're probably looking at, 11 programs, finals. Am I safe to say that we are looking at 11 programs, approximately 11 programs? I didn't hear any board members saying that they were wanting to reduce the fair purses from $300 to $2,500 to spread it out more. What's everyone's thoughts on that?
Joe Putnam. My thoughts are in this day and age, 3,000 is sort of a number we've been at for a number of years. So my vote would be to try to keep that purse the same, to cut the purses by, $500 or so, to maybe add a fare, 2 at the most. I don't know if that financially makes the most sense or not. I think we're putting together, or at least attempting to put together, a pretty, substantial fair program in light of the times and the funds available. So just my opinion.
Dwayne, Rhule. I feel that we may need to listen to some people, because I think there's a group of people out there that would much rather have multiple opportunities to race for 2,500 rather than a limited number on the 3,000. I think it's a good chance to listen to some people and see what they really feel.
So going along with what Dwayne said, if you guys have an opinion that are listening in right now, you can go ahead and add it to the Q&A, as we have some people that have left some comments.
Hey, Jessica, Tim Graber. One of the comments that Pam had suggested earlier was Elkhart County going down to 2 days. The only thing that I could do there to try to keep those two, the Classic and Maple City Trot, in place so that they can still come back and race fair circuit, would be eliminating Monday which would be the 2-year-old pace. I could move that to one of the other days, and then I have 2 overnights there. That would actually, that'd free up a little bit of money from that Monday. The overnights, I think that I figure $1,000, $500 from each, because I put $1,000 in from the fair, and then my operational money would be available to be put back into the till. So if that helps, I would be happy to go like Saturday, Tuesday, and eliminate Monday races.
Jessica, this is Byron Hooley.
Hi, Byron.
Yes, did you copy me? Yeah, I just wanted to, I would think that Goshen, that would make sense to go like a Saturday, Tuesday. I would really hesitate to lower it from our $3,000 purse. I think people that work at the fairs deserve at least a $3,000 purse if it is all at all manageable.
Okay. There was a question, will Scott consider adding more racing for fair horses based on that information? I mean, I think to Scott Piney, if he's still on here, last year we wrote some series for horses when the fairs got done. So if Scott knows when that ending date is, I think that the track is more than happy to try to write some races for those horses. Scott, is that the case?
Yeah, at this point, under these circumstances, everything is, everything's on the table in terms of all the adjustments. Once we get to that point and see how whatever decisions are made and say anything and everything under this nightmare that we're all in is on the table in terms of trying to, make things better. It's kind of, so that's what I'm getting at. Yeah, if that makes sense.
And I think just reading some of these comments that have come in here, I think we've got, there's kind of a mixed consensus. Some people would like to prefer all horsemen women I've spoke with prefer less races for higher purses. I think we need to try our best to leave them at $3,000. They think Tim's idea is good for the Elkhart County Fair. So those are just some of the comments that are out there. So. Okay.
Hey, Jessica, Scott Piney, can I say something just completely unrelated to the fairs?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, it's not trying to pin anybody down or this has got nothing. Is it possible to proceed, or I don't know, like just in terms because getting a condition sheet worked on and getting some information out to the public regarding series races only. I'm not talking about sire stakes. Is it am I able to proceed, or is that just with the late closer thing only? And am I good to go with that, or is there another meeting that has to happen, or what? Because I got to start kind of working on stuff, just that stuff only, kind of over the next week.
I think what I'm hearing is that we will probably have another meeting. My guess is that it would be either on Wednesday or Friday of next week. Pam has asked if we could stay away from Thursday because she has a conflict with that. Is that kind of the consensus I'm hearing from the committee and board members, is to come back with another meeting next week?
Joe Putnam, I think that is the consensus. We've, went over a lot of information and respectfully want to listen to the other course, people with opinions and kind of consider all these things, but, you know, I think we need to, you know, kind of get a opinion that's all in favor of one thing or another, and then approve it before we allude to, you know, any possibilities.
Dwayne, Rhule, I agree. You know.
Jessica, Scott Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as much as I'd like to give Scott a definitive answer today, I don't know.
Yeah, it was only it's not like it's not urgent. It was only late closer related, but they said
and certainly. Yeah, we can certainly have some more discussion about the late closers if everybody wants.
Next week is fine. Next week.
Okay. But I think what has been discussed is certainly reasonable, and a possibility going forward. We just have to go from there as we consider all the options and what makes the most sense. But I'm certainly willing to go along with some of what we've talked about with the late closers as being a possibility.
Okay. If we move over to the other races at the fairs, this sheet you'll see the amount available has been reduced to 60,000. Redevelopment was going to be putting in 7 to the elite. And that has been amended to 5. Now, I will have to say, redevelopment last year, they only put 5 into the elite, but there was also 2 that came from the advisory board. So there was 7 total. The advisory board does not have the funding to put the 2 in. So the whole 7 was going to come from redevelopment this year. I don't know if you guys remember that in our discussions this fall. So it is reducing that 7 down to 5. For the elite series, and then the Elkhart County races, it's taken that 15 down to 10 to reach that total of 60,000. Any thoughts?
Joe Putnam, I just want to agree. I mean, I think if I'm reading it right, that's across the board reduction of 33.68%. Is that correct, Jessica?
It is. It is.
Yeah, I mean, it goes with what we've been talking about all day. I mean, we have to make, sort of across the board reduction. So I'm in agreement with that.
This is Rick. Absolutely. It just goes, just like Joe said, it goes along with every other avenue that we've talked about today.
I would agree with that too, Scott Snyder.
Yeah, and this fair Parr, I agree with that as well.
Dwayne, Rhule, I agree.
No. Byron, you still there?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. And like we said, none of these things are pleasant. I don't think any of us ever thought we would be in this position where we're having to look and reduce our programs. But we are. And like I said, I'm thankful that we have some reserves built up, that we were able to throw in that $2.2 million, because when I started working with this program, I didn't have the $2.2 million in there, and it made me sick to my stomach. So I'm very thankful that we have that to be able to use. So.
And Jessica, this is Rick. You know, you said it earlier when you first started, but I agree. This is just not a one-year phenomenon. We're going to, you know, we're going to feel the pain through at least next year too, some way, shape, or form. How much I don't know, but it's not a 1 year. This is not just a one-off.
Jessica, Dwayne Rhule. If and when we put anything out for the public statement, I would love to see something in there about how much we've pulled out of the additional funds, this $2 million, to let people know how much we have tried to maintain, you know, the purses as best as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We will do that. So, I did put out, when we put out this meeting notice, we gave an opportunity for people to submit some questions ahead of time. And I got a couple of questions, and I don't want for this to go by without bringing them up. A couple of these questions aren't really directly related to breed development, but I think it'd be, you know, somebody took the time to submit them. So, you know, we kind of said they could submit questions ahead of time. So I wanted to share those that I had. And sorry, I've got 10 zillion papers here on my table, and there I'm looking for the first question that we had was per Governor Holcomb's Executive Order 2015, which allows the IHRC special permission to change the racing schedule as they see fit. Obviously, the start date has been changed. Does this also apply to the end date? If so, why is Hoosier Park race meet still scheduled to end on November 21st with only 111 race dates? And I'll speak kind of from the commission first. You know, I think one of the clear things is we're all operating with about, you know, anywhere from 33% to 35% less money than we had last year. So, you know, the trade-off is, if you add more dates, then things have to be decreased even farther. So, and I'm going to punt that to Rick, if he wants to, you know, say anything about it, but, you know.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Love to, actually. You know, we work closely, and I say we, the collective we, Hoosier Park, Indiana Standardbred Association, and Indiana Horse Racing Commission worked on this collectively. And, you know, we're trying to ration our purse money to get us through that November 21st date. We've, as you said, we've lost a considerable amount of casino funding, which is the majority of our funding. I don't know when the casinos will start up again. Don't know what restrictions they'll be under. But I think we're making a good effort under a really bad, set of circumstances to have the best purses possible and extend them through November 21st. So again, it wasn't just a Hoosier Park thing. It was, you know, really, when you consider it's the industry, Indiana Standardbred Association, Hoosier Park, and the commission all working hand in hand. And it was really outstanding effort, you know, a collective effort from all three parties working together for the common good of the harness racing industry in Indiana.
Okay. Another question we have here is, does the IHRC have a plan if someone on the backside, whether it be a racetrack employee or a horseman, tests positive for COVID-19 during the 2020 race meet? And what will the repercussions be? I don't know if they've went out to our website yet, but on our website, there is a 7-page document, and that kind of outlines the protocols and procedures with racing. And there's some quarantine options. If you look at page 2, section 2 of that plan, also page 3, section 2, sections C and K, and page 7. So there's some things the racetrack has put in place, and basically all these groups working together. You know, this 7-page document was a whole lot of work by a whole lot of people to get these protocols and procedures in place. I had a quarter horse breed development meeting early today, and Eric Holstrom, who is the general manager at Indiana Grand, said, you know, this document is, he remembered it being version 9, you know, so that there was 9 versions of this document, and I think there might have even been more than that before we got there. But, you know, that document kind of outlines, you know, what will happen and kind of the resources in place if somebody does test positive, that, you know, that the ISA will be working with the track along with the commission and along with that compliance committee to kind of make sure that people have what they need to, you know, get quarantined and to be helped. And I'll kind of punt it to Rick to kind of, you know, he can comment on that too, because I know he spent a great deal of time working on this stuff. So, Rick?
Yeah, you said it. You said it all, Jessica. But I will say that document is a living, breathing document that allows for us to adapt as, you know, as need be. You know, as you referenced the compliance committee that's made up of a member, the security director from, I'll talk about harness now, security director from Hoosier Park, Joe Putnam from the ISA, myself from Harris Hoosier Park, from a member of the racing commission. So that compliance committee will be a representation of the partnership in the harness racing industry, and we'll deal with any situation that arises. But what you talked about is referenced, the quarantine is referenced in that document. How we handle someone who gets sick is referenced in that document. But again, we've got the compliance committee, and we've always looked at that document. Again, I'll say it again, as a living, breathing document that may change as we move forward.
Rick and Jessica, this is Pam. I'm back finally. Okay. Just on that, they might be asking also, would there be a chance, would we have to stop and disinfect, and because that's what a lot of the factories are having to do, and stop for a little bit and get everything kind of cleaned up depending on who had it or where it was at? Or would there be a chance we wouldn't have to stop and start over for like 5 days or something like that?
You know, I don't know, Pam. I couldn't hazard an answer on that, but I will tell you that as far as disinfecting goes, we will be in the process of disinfecting public areas throughout the day, throughout the evening. So it's going to be an ongoing effort to keep all parts of the backside disinfected.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and like Rick said, you know, as we all went into this thing, there's no blueprint for any of this. And, you know, we've had to try to figure out as we go. And everyone has put in a lot of hours and a lot of time trying to figure out how to make this work. And, you know, it's a continual process as we move forward in how we're approaching things. So, you know, I know that there's been a lot of hours and a lot of time put into things. I had one more question, and this is not really a breed development question, but it was sent to me, so I'm going to bring it up. I got to find that email. The last one, and this goes into some of the things that came out today from Ohio, and it says it appears that Ohio will be keeping the box closed to out-of-state horsemen. They are protecting their horsemen that have been loyal. I know that we protect our horsemen up to a certain class, but there's troubling times. It goes on to talk about, you know, is there anything that we are doing to looking to continue preference for all classes, including our invites and overnights? And if people from out of state come with Indiana sired horses so that they don't have an issue getting in. And then it also asked about the invite going with, you know, 6 and 7 horses. Do we anticipate that happening this year as we're looking to stretch our purse account? you know, and I know that the invite has been a controversial thing over the years. It says also as this is allowed, their thoughts were it should not be for multiple entries with 2 or 3 trainers. So, and this is somebody that's got calls from horsemen and was coming out.
Let me answer a couple of those. Let me answer a couple of those items. Let me answer a couple of those items. First of all, as far as preferences go, we've put a preference system in place, and as always, the Indiana sired horse has first preference. After that, we've got a second preference to protect the folks that have supported us over the years and protect the Indiana horsemen. That those trainers who started 10 or more horses at Hoosier Park last year and those trainers who were allocated stalls at Hoosier Park will have first preference. So we feel like we protected the folks that supported us by those 2 preferences. What were the other couple things? What was the last one you brought up, Jessica?
It was about the invite going. The
no,
invite.
There's something after the invite.
I can answer that one if you want me to.
Preference for all classes, is it?
Yeah, they're all overnight races have that. And they always have had that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those preferences will be for all classes.
And we're doing the same. And like we're doing the same. And I talked about what you mentioned earlier. It's like this crazy situation, and with the same kind of preference is also going to be applied to the qualifiers, because like we're limited to 10 per day, and that's a completely, the whole qualifying thing is the same preference is going to apply, and it's going to be adjusted accordingly in case we have things in place, in case we get this large, humongous influx of something from somewhere, and I don't know where it's going to be like, but we have plenty of things in place to even in the qualifying races, which is a first, because again, we have like over 1,000 horses in this state that need to qualify all at the same time, every different group, every different category, no matter what it is. And it's a completely we're just going to monitor it daily, make adjustments accordingly, and then this is a brand new thing. It's all, you know.
So I remember what the last one was, Jessica. It was about a trainer having multiple horses in a race.
Yes.
And
yes.
A trainer cannot have multiple horses in a race to the detriment of another trainer. So if there's 10 trainers, different trainers who want to get a horse in a race, it's using 10 as the max, and they each want to get a horse in a race, and one trainer wants to enter 3 of them. Well, he can only have 1 in there. He cannot have multiple horses in a race to the detriment of another trainer. Now, if that race isn't filled and the trainer's got 2 horses that qualify for that race, yes, you'll be able to have multiple horses in a race.
Yeah, and that is actually a commission rule. So I don't know what the citation is for that rule, but that's actually spelled out by commission rule. So that's been a long-standing rule. Another question that we had here was, and we had the same question on my quarter horse meeting this morning. Owners would like to see their horses race as they've been paying the bills. Why are they eliminated from watching their horses race in June? We referred to that document, that 8-page document, and there was give and take in order to get that plan approved by the governor's office. It is what it is, with owners not coming to the track, and that's something that's, when you look at a lot of what the other states are doing, it's very similar. So that is something that is kind of occurring across the board at this point in time. And, in order to get racing, there's trade-offs that have to happen. So I don't know if Rick wants to comment to that at all either.
I'll comment on that also. Look, we are trying to keep, every time we add another human being into the barn area, we are increasing the chances of someone bringing the COVID virus into that barn area. It's a very dire time. As you said, Jessica, it was very difficult getting the approval from the governor's office, and I can see why. But they did allow us under these protocols to start racing. But just to open the barn area, just to let people come in and see their horses and watch them race, this isn't that time. We have got to minimize to mitigate to the nth degree the safety, keep the safety of everyone involved. And we just can't be adding owners and guests and friends. We just can't do it. Unfortunately, we can't do it. In the past, yes, we want to show off the barn area. We want people to come back. We want to see the horses. But this is the most difficult of times that we're operating under. And we're trying to, mitigate against that virus, reaching our backside.
Mm-hmm. And I had two more questions.
That is true, Jessica.
Yes.
That is true, because if we do not comply, he can, at the drop of a hat, say, you're done right now.
Yep.
We have to be very, very compliant, and we have to follow the rules, or he can shut us down. So we have to protect each other and our livelihood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jessica, Scott Snyder, I want to piggyback on some of this real quick.
Okay.
And back Rick and Pam up. We're extremely fortunate to have the opportunity to start racing as soon as we're hopefully going to be, as we all hope for the best. And I think it's really important for horsemen to understand, and this includes owners and fans and everybody, that we're all in this together. And this isn't going to go away anytime soon. So as much as we all want to return back to normal, pre-coronavirus, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So in lieu of that, we have to do everything that we can to look out for each other. And obviously we're trying to do that as a board, and Rick at the racetrack and the race commission by getting racing going, so people can continue with their livelihoods. But the health aspect of it is going to be critical, that everyone follows best practices. You wear your mask, not to protect yourself, but protect others, to prevent asymptomatic spread. We're washing our hands. We're not invading personal space. And we have a fever or temperature, that we stay home, and we've all got to work together to prevent the spread as much as just so we can continue to race. Because if we don't do these things, and it starts to get out of control, then we're going to be right back to where we were, and none of us want to see that happen.
Mm-hmm. And another question was, will there be masks required at the fairs? We will actually be taking the procedures for Hoosier Park and Indiana Grand, and we actually will be putting procedures together for our county fairs. So like Rick said, this is a moving document. So this is a living, breathing document. With the fairs not starting until July 4th, the requirements may change in that document as we get to the county fairs. So there will be a plan in place for the fairs. We just don't have it created at this time, because it is such a moving, living, breathing document, and as things are changing. So there will be that. And then also somebody asked the question, and I know that I've gotten a lot of these questions about, why can't the fair start June 14th? And, the simplest answer I have is through the governor's approval, we weren't approved to start June 14th. We were approved to start July 4th, when he lessened and is allowing activities at all county fairs to take place. So that's the simplest answer I have for it.
There was a question regarding Indiana residents that train at farms and they don't apply for stalls at the track. And when they are, I'm guessing they're asking when they are allowed to come to Hoosier.
Are you talking about in-state horses are allowed to come, if they've been allotted stalls, can come in right now. You can also come in to train each and every day. Now, horses from outside the state cannot come in under the governor's orders until May 24th, when interstate travel can begin in the state. So out-of-state horses can start coming on May 24th. Those in-state can come in now if they've been allotted stalls, and Scott's been making arrangements to get to organize arrival times. And then horses that just want to come in and train can come in and train. Having said that, our protocols are in place. When you arrive at the gate, you will have your temperature taken. You will be given a wristband for that day if you're cleared, if your temperature is okay. You will have to wear a mask. If you don't have one, one will be issued to you. But those protocols are now in place at Harrah's Hoosier Park.
Okay. I think there's only one last question there, and it was, and we've had this question over the years before, is that races with, can Indiana sired races with racehorses, with 8 racehorses not be a full field of 10? So I think the question is can you cut off a race of Indiana sired horses with 8 and not try to get that 9th and 10th horse, and consider that instead of throwing in 2 outside horses?
No.
And my thoughts are, you guys saw the budget cuts that we have here, the percentages that were down. We need every dollar that we can get, and full fields creates more wagering than a field of 8 that may have a scratch, and then you get a 7 and you lose your superfecta and those exotic wagerings. So, full fields help the bottom line of everybody. So I just wanted to, point that out because we've been asked those questions before. So, okay.
And then just a couple of cleanup I've noticed. So we have a lot of questions still for Jessica to make the official announcement. Are late closers, sire stakes, and fair circuit nominations that are due May 5th with a postmark of May 15th, are those still due May 15th?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I think there is questionables about those. Do you guys want to say those middle late closers are gone and those are no longer due May 15th today? Scott, Joe,
Rick?
This
is Scott Snyder.
Yes.
I'm willing
yes.
to have a conversation about that, and so we can open that up for discussion.
Yeah, Joe Putnam. I think, as we've discussed before, I mean, the consensus seems to be we'll keep the first 4 that was nominated prior to all this. And if I'm reading this right, we'll probably eliminate the rest of the late closers and then replace them with similar type mini-series type races with the same language. So my vote would say we could probably safely say we could eliminate the late closer payments that would be due May 15th.
Okay. And if somebody has already made those, then we will start a process of issuing you a refund if we've already deposited your check. If we have not deposited your check, we'll be contacting you to get, if you wrote a check for your sire stake and your late closer all in one, we'll contact you to make those arrangements. So, is that safe to say?
That from my vote, that's safe to say.
Okay.
I'm with Joe.
Yeah, I could. I would have no problem going along with that.
Okay.
Especially with the understanding that the ones that we're eliminating, that we're going to make every effort to turn those into other opportunities.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a preference on a meeting day next week? Do we want to do a Wednesday or a push it to Friday to have time to maybe figure all these things out?
Joe Putnam, I would be open for either, as long as it's, a similar time, because we do have qualifiers starting next week. So, 3 o'clock, either day would probably suffice for me anyway.
Jessica, Scott, Snyder, I'm open to either day.
Rick,
this is Rick.
I'm
open to either day, but I'd like to come to a resolution sooner rather than later. And if that could be next Wednesday, I think we owe it to the Horsemen, Indiana, to get the information out as soon as possible. And if that could be done next Wednesday, that would be my preference.
I am okay with Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Byron, Faron?
Yes, I agree with the Wednesday. I think people need to know what's going on. Sooner the better, and I agree with that. Wednesday's good for me.
That'll work for me, Jessica. This is Pam.
Okay. Dwayne?
I agree. Wednesday's fine.
Okay. We will do this Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Same setup. I know that I got some questions about, why we are having a virtual meeting instead of a meeting at the racetrack. And, this committee is a function of a state agency. And, state agency, we've been given some pretty clear mandates about, adhering to the guidelines that we've been given. And so we're just trying to make this work and have these virtual meetings and discussions. So.
Hey, Jessica, I just want to thank you and Megan for all your efforts in setting this meeting up today. Much appreciated. I'm sure we all appreciate it.
Thank you. Megan put in a lot of hard work and a lot of practices we had. I don't know how many of you guys were on the practice Tuesday, but it was a complete flop. So we had to figure out a lot of things between Tuesday and today. So, and I don't think I slept much at all last night being worried about how it was going to work today, but it worked much better than I could have imagined. So, I just appreciate everybody's patience as we try to navigate through all of this stuff and figure it out. So I'm hoping my third breed development meeting, my thoroughbred one, goes as smoothly tomorrow as my two have went today. So
yeah, definitely. I just kind of want to say, guys, if you have any other questions, you can continue to email them to Jessica. Keep posted on our Facebook page, as you see on our website. As you can see at the top, we have a COVID-19 information that we have been showing you all along. We have some great information on infographics and everything. Make sure you are also signed up for your newsletters to get any information straight to your inbox. Also, very, very important, especially with the times of social distancing. If you have not done your license, please try to do your licensing online. That way it resolves. We have some very strict guidelines going on in our licensing offices. I believe only 2 people are in at a time. So to avoid the lines, to avoid having to wait 6 feet apart, if you can do what you can online, we definitely recommend you guys doing that as well. If you have any questions, you can contact our licensing department at Harris Hoosier Park. and everything. And we will do the same thing for the meeting next week. If you are interested in attending, we will have information posted for that as well. If you have any questions or comments regarding what we were doing, if you have any, saying, hey, sounds great, let me know. You can continue to email Jessica questions for next week.
And if you have any feedback, if you want to get feedback that you would like to get to the board members, if you email me that, I will send that out to the entire advisory board and breed development committee. So it will get forwarded on to them. So.
And I just wanted to double check. Somebody did ask about reduction. Jessica, you did reduce everything across the board, the 33.68%.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have somebody asking about that. I don't believe there are anything else. If we have any other comments from our committee members or a motion. Somebody did ask, can Hoosier Park text this information out? We don't all have Facebook or Twitter. That's why we recommend making sure you check our website. We do post all the meeting information on our website under meeting information at the bottom. That's, I'm assuming they're discussing, they're talking about ISA's text alerts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll text something out about the late closer update, and then whatever information you need, just text me and I'll put it on there or whatever. Let me know.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just want to remind everyone as we start qualifiers next week, and obviously a lot of horses arrive at approximately around the same time period. It's going to take a little longer to get into the barn area. I think we're going to have 2 lanes open to try to facilitate movement as quickly as possible, but we ask for everyone's patience, and we ask that everyone arrive, allow themselves some extra time on their arrival. Get there, 45 minutes earlier than normal, just to make sure that everyone gets in there and gets ready to get their horse qualified. And I know Scott and Joe will get that information sent out on the ISA text blast link.
Yeah, and post and I know why anybody listening to this out there is a post time for the qualifiers during these early sessions is going to be noon until we get into the meet. So it's like post time will be noon for the qualifiers, not 10 a.m.
Thank you, Scott. I'll make sure that we post that on our social media as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Yep.
Leading up to the start of the meet.
Jessica, Scott Snyder, thank you very much for all your hard work and effort, and Megan also for your all your hard work and effort to make today's meeting successful.
Great discussion.
Thank you.
Great discussion from everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you all next Wednesday.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Jessica?
Yes, I'm still on here.
Okay. I missed all the fair stuff.
We didn't make any